Now, Justice Sanjiv Khanna took oath as the 54th Chief Justice of India, succeeding Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. The Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and other ministers attended the oath-taking ceremony. Elevated as a Supreme Court judge on 18th of January 2019, Justice Khanna will superannuate on May 13, 2025 after a tenure of little over 6 months. He is amongst the few judges who were elevated to the Supreme Court even before becoming the Chief Justice of any High Court. Born on 14th of May 1960 in Delhi, Chief Justice Khanna went to modern school Barakhamba before moving to St. Stephen's College. He studied law at Delhi University's Campus Law College. Chief Justice Khanna's father, Justice Devraj Khanna, was a judge in the Delhi High Court and his mother, Saroj Khanna, a lecturer at Lady Shri Ram College. His uncle, Justice Hansraj Khanna, was a Supreme Court judge remembered for his minority judgment in the emergency era. Justice Hansraj Khanna was the sole dissenting judge in the landmark judgment that said a person's right to not be unlawfully detained can be suspended in the interest of the state. Justice Sanjiv Khanna started his career as an advocate with the Bar Council of Delhi in 1983 and initially practiced in the district courts at the Tees Hazari complex and later moved to the High Court of Delhi and of the tribunals. He had a long tenure as a Senior Standing Counsel for the Income Tax Department and in 2004 was appointed the Standing Counsel Civil for the National Capital Territory of Delhi. Justice Khanna also appeared for a number of criminal cases at the Delhi High Court as an additional public prosecutor and as amicus curiae. He was elevated as additional judge of the Delhi High Court in 2005 and was made a permanent judge in 2006. As a Delhi High Court judge, Justice Khanna also held the position of chairman and judge in charge at Delhi Judicial Academy, Delhi International Arbitration Centre and the District Court of Mediation Centres. Justice Khanna held the post of chairman of the Supreme Court Legal Service Committee from 17th of June to December 25th, 2023 and is currently the executive chairman of the National Legal Services Authority. He is also a member of the Governing Council of the National Judicial Academy in Bhopal. Let's start off this conversation to know a little more about the man who is now the Chief Justice of India, Sanjiv Khanna. A.K. Singh, he's a Supreme Court advocate joining me on the telecast. A.K. Singh, Justice Khanna, before being accorded this very prestigious, important position of being the Chief Justice of India, has also served as a Supreme Court judge. If you could shed more light into the history of the man.
Since 2019, Justice Khanna headed a bench in a Supreme Court. He was elevated there too. And I remember in many cases, in fact, I have appeared before him also. In many cases, he will be always remembered for this justice in Sabrimala case. He also headed the bench to hear the sexual harassment allegation against the former Chief Justice of India, Mr. Gogoi, by one of the Supreme Court staffer. And he'll also be remembered and known for the bail granted in the Arvind Kejriwal's case in the PMLA matter, and he's advocating for the special bench to hear the bail petitions in some the kind of legislation like PMLA and the UAPA and the NDPS where the reverse conditions are there. To settle down the bail is the rule and the jail is the exceptions.
Yeah.
So he will definitely be remembered for the Arvind Kejriwal's judgment. It's a classic judgment written by him.
Could you also elaborate on this case that you're fighting in the court on the sexual harassment alleged case against CJI Gogoi? You said you were part of that legal
he was the
process.
He was the part of the bench. He was the part of the bench, but
yeah.
That case has been closed down right now.
Yeah, right now. Okay, you said you have been part of a number of cases that have been fought in court with the Chief Justice now, with the Judge of the Supreme Court erstwhile, Sanjiv Khanna. If you could share some anecdotes of the kind of judge he has been and encounters you had in the court of law with him.
My personal experience with him, while I have appeared before the Justice Khanna in his bench, He is the very bold kind of the judge, and the takes, and you can say a true guardian of the people's liberty and the equality and the justice. Especially when the petitioner is the senior citizen or the woman, widow or the ex-serviceman, etc., they take the very bold steps. And he is the one of the, you can say, he advocating the principle of the bail is the rule, and you can say he always takes side of the downtrodden state of the society, you can say.
Okay. Also talking about, you spoke about the sexual harassment case against CJI Gogoi back in the day, talking about the Sabrimala case that was making headlines all across. It was a controversial issue. It was a religious issue, and therefore a lot of controversy and chaos that was created, and how he handled it very sensitively. Talking about the Arvind Kejriwal bail, of course, a much spoken about case during the Lok Sabha elections, the campaigning time where Arvind Kejriwal was allowed to be provided bail, where he went about campaigning for his party for the elections. Also talking about the, interesting to note, the electoral bond schemes that had been launched by the BJP government was overturned by him, by his bench. If you could shed more light into how he was able to make this decision. Obviously, court of law, there was a lot of opposition from the Congress's side, from the other political parties, who said that the scheme which was for political funding was unconstitutional. A.K. Singh, if you could shed light into this, comment on particularly about the electoral bond scheme and how things, it is a historic judgment by the Supreme Court, where he was the one who was leading the bench.
In a case related to the electoral bond, the said policy was quashed by the bench basically, and it was held to be unconstitutional, and Mr. Khanna was the part of that bench.
Right, absolutely. If you could also taking a look at his history and the legal legacy, he comes from the family of lawyers and judges, and spoken
his
about.
His father was also a judge in the Delhi High Court, and his uncle Justice H.R. Khanna was a justice in the Honorable Supreme Court, and he missed the CJI during the emergency.
Yeah, so again that was a very bold,
that was a legacy of the legal, yes.
That was a very bold, judgment that had been passed. Of course, he was in minority, and his judgment was overruled. But that the case of emergency 1976, where the questions were raised about the freedom of speech of an individual that is being curtailed when the emergency was imposed as well. Talking also about the EVMs, because a lot of noise is created by the opposition, how the EVMs are faulty, and there is a chance of electoral rigging that takes place, and there was affirmation of the use of the EVMs that was reinstated by the Supreme Court, which is the final judgment, and allowing for the people of the country to believe in democracy, and reinstating the electoral organization, the electoral institution of our country, which is held supreme, which has to be free and fair and transparent.
Yes.
Okay, I'm also being joined by our advocate R.K. Singh. He's the Supreme Court lawyer. I'm going to ask you the same question, R.K. Singh. If you could shed more light into your experiences in working with advocate Sanjiv Khanna. Judge Sanjiv Khanna, beg your pardon.
Megha, at the onset, it is a great day for all the graduates from Campus Law Center, especially for us, because he is a law graduate from Campus Law Center, and in line of succession is the second one. So undoubtedly, it's a very privileged day for all of us. Now, coming to your question, as far as my experience, in appearing in his court, I have been appearing in his court when he was a judge in Delhi High Court. And I'll tell you a very small example. It was way back in 2007, 6 or 7. The bulldozers were demolishing the house in Vikaspuri. And that houses were getting demolished in a very brutal manner. We mentioned the matter, and at point of time, Justice Khanna was sitting with Justice Vichendra Gupta ji. And when we mentioned the matter, when I especially mentioned the matter, within no time, he stopped those bulldozers. And close to 3,500 families, they were saved from the brutal clutches of that bulldozer. Now coming back to Justice Khanna's judicial frame of mind. It is a very open secret that he is a very private person. Unlike Justice Chandrachud, he is not a very media open person, or he lets himself speak through his judgments. And this is the biggest idiom a judge can have. And the judge always speaks through his judgment. And the judicial mind, so far as judicial mind of Justice Khanna is concerned. So as you have rightly said, you were talking to Mr. Singh, he was citing n number of cases. Although his tenure is very less, he has got only 6 months of tenure. But prior to that, as a judge in all the important matters, whereby Justice Chandrachud was heading the bench, in many of the constitutional matters, like VVPAT matter, 370, your decriminalization of adultery, and thereafter that Kejriwal bail matter, right to information, whereby the Office of Chief Justice has also come within the purview of RTI. These are the landmark judgments whereby Justice Khanna has spoken to this country about his judicial mind. And these judgments are so great in the yardstick of its consequences that a time will come, although these are the fresh judgments, but a time will come which is going to change the very contours of judicial discipline in this country. Yes, so
right.
Next one, please.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, Justice Khanna is replacing the outgoing CJI D.Y. Chandrachud and has a storied career spanning cases concerning constitutional law, taxation, arbitration, commercial law and environmental law. As judge of the Apex Court, Chief Justice Khanna has been part of several landmark judgments, including upholding the sanctity of the electoral voting machines and the abrogation of Article 370 that gave Jammu and Kashmir special status. He was part of the bench that declared the electoral bond scheme unconstitutional. He was also part of the recent majority ruling in the Aligarh Muslim University minority status determination case. Justice Sanjiv Khanna in July 2024 had granted interim bail to former Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal while he was embroiled in a case under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, citing that there was no clarity of whether there was a need to arrest Arvind Kejriwal. Now, while he did not rule on the legality of the PMLA charge itself, he did bring up the important question of whether there were additional grounds for the arrest and if they were justified. Some of the notable judgments of Justice Khanna in the Supreme Court include the upholding the use of the EVMs in elections, saying the devices were secure and eliminated booth capturing and bogus voting. Now, in the EVM VVPAT cross-verification case, he addressed public outrage in April 2024 by rejecting the petitions against the use of EVMs in the Lok Sabha elections. Instead of recommending a return to paper ballots, Justice Khanna directed the Election Commission to issue slips with party symbols or barcodes after each vote, enhancing the transparency in counting procedures. His judgment came amidst massive outrage around EVMs and debate around their use and misuse. Now, in February 2024, Justice Khanna, as part of a 5-judge bench, declared the controversial electoral bond scheme unconstitutional due to the concerns around the transparency of donors and the potential for corrupt practices. Justice Khanna also played a key role in the landmark 2023 decision by a 5-judge bench that upheld the abrogation of Article 370, which had granted special status to Jammu and Kashmir. He was of strong opinion that stripping away the special status of Jammu and Kashmir would not endanger the principles of India's federal structure. In an influential decision that reaffirmed the coexistence of judicial independence and transparency in 2019, he contributed to a ruling that stated that the Office of the Chief Justice of India could be subject to information under the Right of Information Act. Now, while we have spoken about a series of these judgments where Justice Khanna played an integral part, Advocate R.K. Singh, there is also this very emotional anecdote that is going viral about Justice Khanna and how he has an ancestral, or he had an ancestral home in Amritsar, and he decides to visit there every year, although it had been sold several years ago, and it holds a special meaning and is sentimental to him and his family. If you could shed more light onto it.
Yes, I've gone through that report that is circulating in media also, that he has got an ancestral home in somewhere in Punjab, Amritsar.
Yes.
And in 1970, that house was sold. His grandfather purchased that house, one house in Amritsar and that another house in Dalhousie. That Dalhousie house is still with him. And in 1970, that house was sold to someone. And Justice Khanna went there when he was 5, at the age of 5, with his father, Justice Devraj Khanna Sahab. And thereafter, since then, he has been searching and locating that ancestral house, because that entire contours, that entire demography of that area has changed. So that searching of that house, make I understand one thing, it is sort of a pilgrimage for a person who is searching the identity of his soul. It has got such a sentimental value, we can all understand. Because when we try to search for our roots, these roots are not ordinary for rest of the world, it can maybe anything else. But for us, for those who are searching for their roots, for the identity of that root becomes somehow ingrained to your second reflection of your identity. And just like a normal human being, absolutely a normal human being, Justice Khanna is we must not forget that he has been a High Court judge and a Supreme Court, now he is the Chief Justice of India. He could have easily asked any government to do these things for him, and the government would have been more than willing to oblige him for that matter.
Yeah.
But here is a person who is so humble, so private, that he has taken this search as his gospel right and duty, without making any fuss of all these things. So that speaks volumes about his emotional quotient, the practicality, the reality, humbleness. Another thing which is also coming up in media, that he has to stop his mandatory 10-kilometer walk every day. Because prior to becoming Chief Justice of India, he was in a habit of going to Lodi Garden and having his walk. But now, since security protocols are there, he will not be allowed to go without security person.
Right, absolutely.
So now he has said that no, I'll not go. Rather, I'll do the required jogging in my bungalow itself. Another thing which is also coming up, that speaks still the volume about that person, that Justice Khanna is not going to shift into the new residence of Chief Justice of India. That is what I have read somewhere today, that he is going to stay in his old house only. So this paraphernalia of government luggage, baggage and glory, Justice Khanna is far away from all these things. He is a saintly judge, a rightful legate of Justice H.R., legendary Justice H.R. Khanna. We haven't seen Justice H.R. Khanna, but I am sure those generations, those ethics of those generations, those lawyers, those judges, he is a true representative of that ethic.
Right, absolutely. And you did speak about, and so did Advocate A.K. Singh, that, him being a very private individual, not really wanting to attract limelight. And if you could shed more light, Advocate R.K. Singh, about the contrast that is portrayed of the former Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, versus the new Chief Justice of India who has been appointed today.
Yes, rightly pointed out that he's a very private man, and he kept himself out of any kind of controversy or any limelight or any public appearances that the Mr. D.Y. used to do. Hardly Mr. Khanna visits even law colleges to deliver the lectures. In last 6 months or 1 year, I have not seen him in any law colleges. He went to deliver the lectures even.
Right, absolutely. Advocate R.K. Singh, what is also challenging over here to to maintain a low profile for a judge of a stature of Sanjiv Khanna, because when you take a look at the number of cases he has adjudged, he has passed judgment. The latest one about the minority status of Aligarh Muslim University, that gained a lot of traction. It was in the news. We're talking about, like we said, the EVMs. We're talking about the electoral bonds. These all have gained traction. They are headlines across media, and people are speaking about it. People talk about it. It is actually making a dramatic, drastic change in the lives of the people, in the lives of political parties, in way the democracy functions. So, do you think now that he is the Chief Justice of India, it is going to become even more difficult for him to stay out of the limelight?
Most of the political questions, sooner or later, has tendency to become a judicial question. So this is not something very new. But yes, when we are talking about the Chief Justice of India, we are talking about Chief Justice of Supreme Court of India, and it is a constitutional court. The matters which come here has a far-reaching consequences. The stakes are so high. So certainly the thrust of media, the focus of media, the discourses will be centered around him. But it is to be seen how much Justice Khanna is going to respond to these talks, these discourses which is going on in public or social media through his out-of-court statement, which I am sure he is not going to do. Because as of now, the judicial career of Justice Khanna since last 25-30 years is certainly not in this favor that Justice Khanna is kind of a judge who is going to respond through off-the-cuff remark or some remark during the proceeding which is going to make waves. No, he is not going to do that. But certainly there are challenges, like as you have rightly said, Aligarh Muslim University case. So that case has been kept open for the successive bench to decide it. Certainly he has got a very less tenure to decide such a mammoth case. But I am sure if he is determined, he is going to decide it. Reason being, I will tell you why. We all lawyers know that when we appear before Justice Khanna's court, one thing is absolutely sure, that you are going to get a very patient hearing. Very patient hearing. The only condition is that you have to be legally right and you have to maintain the decorum of the court. Soft voice, etiquette, mannerism. And once Justice Khanna is sure of certain thing, no force on earth is going to deter him from passing a judgment. Like as Mr. Singh has rightly said, it's an unprecedented thing for the PML Act that a serving chief minister is going to get interim bail for campaigning. It was unheard in the judicial history of this country, although it has created a lot of debate. Tomorrow somebody else will come, I have to do farming, so give me bail. No, he has given the rationale behind it. So Justice Khanna is such a rational judge, but at the same time, the humanity aspect of his judgment has got an immense romantic values. Immense romantic values.
Right, absolutely. But I'm going to again, interject Advocate R.K. Singh and again talk about the specific case of the Aligarh Muslim University, the status quo that has been maintained by the Supreme Court, that it should continue to be a minority university, and the case has been transferred to a 3-judge bench. I don't know if it's going to be led by the Chief Justice of India, but at the same time, the bench, the 7-judge bench that was led by the Chief Justice of India, saw a lot of criticism coming in from various quarters over the alleged inability or looking to again pass the buck and not make a critical decision on a subject that has been controversial, because the case is being fought in the courts since 1976, and this has gone without any conclusion being drawn, which is the job of the judiciary.
No, very true. Aligarh Muslim University judgment, that minority judgment, which minority institution judgment, It has created a lot of ruckus and a lot of debate. It has created a lot of heat. But we must understand one thing, Megha, we're absolutely clear. Every judge is entitled for the deliverance of his tenure. As a nation, we must not impose upon our will to a judge that he has to decide this thing in these times. He has to decide certain things as per the will of majority or minority. What has happened in the Aligarh Muslim University, Judge? Just see. It has said that minority status of AMU will remain so. It has not tinkered with the minority status. And it is in league with the Constituent Assembly debate, where it has been thoroughly debated that the diversity of this country has to be maintained, and if has to be maintained, that it must be maintained through various channels. Because diversity leads to unity and vice versa. So now these minority institutions, it's not a question of only a minority institution A or B.
Yeah. Also, you think all eyes will be on the new Chief Justice of India, Sanjiv Khanna, to be able to help the 3-judge bench pass a judgment swiftly, come to a conclusion in this case that has been, like I said, going on for decades together now. And you think with the kind of legacy that has been, the very essence of Justice Khanna is going to help do that?
No, as a lawyer, I'm not in a position to understand the administrative side of CJI, because I'm too small a man to comment on this, whether Justice Khanna would like to do it or not. But certainly, given the history which Mr. Justice Khanna has for liberty and secular credentials of this country, I'm sure that he is going to do something to so that this case ultimately see a decent burial.
Okay.
A very amicable burial.
Okay, all right. I'm out of time. I thank both of you, Advocate A.K. Singh and Advocate R.K. Singh, for joining me on this very special telecast. On that note, I slip into a short break. Thanks for watching NewsX.